Are you ready to manage multiple accounts on your devices without ever getting banned? The right way? You set up an AI workflow. You create a few Reddit accounts for research, testing ideas, or separating projects. Everything works at first. Then one day, sessions reset. You get logged out for no reason. Things stop behaving normally. Workflows that used to run smoothly start breaking, and you have no idea why. So you assume the tool broke, or maybe Reddit changed something, or your automation script has a bug. But here's the reality. Most people aren't doing anything wrong. They're just missing one layer. And once you understand what that layer is, everything becomes stable again. If you use AI tools, if you're managing multiple Reddit accounts for research, content, or projects, and things keep randomly breaking, this video is for you. And by the end, you'll understand exactly why this keeps happening and how to fix it without changing your tools or rebuilding your entire workflow.
Let me say this clearly right at the beginning, because this is where most videos get misunderstood. This is not about bypassing platforms. This is not about doing anything shady. This is about understanding how platforms expect environments to behave and giving them exactly what they're looking for. Because most AI creators don't just do one thing. You're researching ideas, you're testing workflows, you're switching between projects. Sometimes it's personal work, sometimes it's client work. And somewhere in that process, Reddit becomes part of the workflow. Not for spam, not for shortcuts, for research, for understanding how real people talk about topics in your niche, for spotting trends before they become obvious to everyone else. And that's completely normal. That's what professionals do. But here's where things start to go wrong. All of this usually happens inside the same browser. Same environment, same digital identity. At first, nothing feels wrong. Everything works until patterns start changing. You log into different accounts. You switch contexts quickly. You move between tools, tabs, and sessions, all inside one browser. From a human perspective, this makes perfect sense. But platforms don't see intention. They only see behavior. And when behavior starts looking inconsistent, platforms respond by protecting themselves. Not by banning you, by adding friction, logouts, session resets, extra verification checks, things slowing down for no obvious reason. And this is where most people make the mistake. They assume the problem is the AI tool, or the automation, or their workflow logic. So they rebuild everything. And for a while, it works again, until the same problem comes back. Because the real issue was never the tools. It was the layer underneath them. And once you see this layer, the whole problem starts making sense. Let's zoom out for a second and look at what a typical AI workflow actually looks like. You probably have layers stacked on top of each other. At the top, you have AI tools, ChatGPT, Claude, maybe Perplexity, maybe API-level access to different models. These work. They're powerful. You rely on them every single day. Under that, you might have automation or testing workflows, maybe Zapier, maybe N8N, maybe custom Python scripts, something that connects actions across different platforms. Also works. Individually, these tools are solid. Then you have research platforms, like Reddit, where you're understanding real conversations, gathering insights, staying ahead of trends. Again, nothing wrong with this. Professionals do this all the time. You also have testing environments where you test prompts, test workflows, iterate on AI outputs in different contexts, standard practice. And maybe you're doing client work or collaboration, managing projects for different clients, different platforms, different access levels. Completely normal setup. Individually, every single one of these pieces works perfectly. So here's the question. If all these pieces work individually, why do things start breaking when you scale? This is where most explanations stop. They tell you to use better tools, or write cleaner workflows, or just be more careful. But that's not the issue. The issue is that every single one of these platforms
expects something from your browser. Not just your login credentials, your environment. Things like device signals, session history, behavior consistency, environment stability over time. When you use an AI tool, it's not just processing your prompt, it's also watching where you're connecting from, what device you appear to be using, whether your environment matches your previous sessions, whether multiple signals align consistently. Same with automation platforms, same with research systems, same with any tool that requires a login or persistent state. These platforms are designed to recognize returning users. That's a feature. It makes things smoother when you're using one account in one location with one consistent identity. But the moment you need multiple research environments, separate testing contexts, different project workspaces, client-specific setups, the browser environment you're using starts sending mixed signals. And platforms notice. They see location mismatches, time zone conflicts, device fingerprint inconsistencies, and they respond the way they're designed to, by adding friction. Sometimes that's a logout, sometimes it's a verification request, sometimes your session just resets for no clear reason. You're not doing anything wrong, you're just missing the layer that keeps these environments separated, stable, and consistent. Most people never realize this is the problem. They think it's the tool, they think it's the platform, they think it's their setup, but it's none of those. It's the environment layer. And once you have that in place, everything else stabilizes. I'll show you exactly how I set this up so my Reddit research never breaks. But first, let's look at why it's failing for most people. Here's the missing piece most creators never learn. Platforms don't just recognize accounts, they recognize environments. Each serious workflow needs its own stable environment. Not a new tab, not incognito mode, not by using a VPN or proxy, and definitely not temporary fixes like clearing cookies every time. A persistent environment that stays consistent every time you open it. Think of it like this. Think of it like Docker, but for browsers, or virtual machines, but lightweight and purpose-built for web workflows. Each environment has its own identity layer, its own persistent state, its own session memory, its own location and time zone alignment. And here's the critical part. These environments stay consistent across sessions. You close one, come back tomorrow, it's exactly where you left it. No re-authentication, no environment drift, no random resets. This is what makes everything else work reliably. Because now, your AI tools see a consistent returning user. Your automation workflows run in predictable environments. Your research systems maintain clean separation. Your testing contexts don't contaminate each other. Your client work stays organized and isolated. You're not fighting platform logic anymore. You're working with it. Your AI tools are the brain. Your workflows are the hands. But the environment is the ground everything stands on. If the ground keeps changing, everything above it becomes unstable. Once each workflow has its own environment, platforms see consistency. Sessions last longer. Workflows stop randomly breaking. You stop fighting the system and start working with it. Now let me show you what this actually looks like. Let me show you why this layer matters. This is one of my working environments. I've linked this in the description. Notice, nothing to set up. This is exactly where I left it. I can shut this down, come back later, and it's the same environment. When you're running AI tools, testing automations, or doing research, this consistency is what stops things from randomly breaking. Now, here's where this becomes extremely practical. I don't mix everything together anymore. Instead, I use separate environments for different contexts. One environment for Reddit research. This is where I aggregate data, follow communities, track trends. Everything stays logged in. Everything stays persistent. One environment for AI testing and experiments. This is where I iterate on prompts, test model outputs, experiment with different tools. Clean separation from everything else. One environment for content creation, where I draft scripts, test ideas, organize my publishing workflow. One environment for client work. Dedicated environments for client-specific platforms, tools, and workflows. No cross-contamination with my personal projects. Each one opens exactly how I left it. Same session, same state, same behavior. Nothing interferes with anything else. Let me walk you through an actual example of how this works in practice. Let's say I'm researching AI automation trends for a video. I open my research environment. I'm already logged into Reddit, already following the communities I care about, already have my saved posts organized. I spend 20 minutes gathering insights, saving posts, tracking discussions. When I'm done, I just close it. Later that evening, I want to test a new AI prompt structure. Fresh environment. My experimental ChatGPT account is here. My Claude testing workspace is here. Nothing from my research work, just clean, focused testing. This is what I mean by environment separation. It's not about complexity, it's about clarity. Each context has its own space. Each space stays exactly how I left it, and nothing ever interferes with anything else. Before I set this up, I was constantly logging in and out, clearing cookies, trying to keep things separate in my head. Now, I just open the right environment and everything's already there. Research doesn't affect testing. Everything becomes calm and reliable. I've run multiple projects for clients this way, all stable for months. This isn't about using more tools. It's about organizing the foundation underneath them. Once you fix the environment layer, everything above it starts behaving the way it should. Now, let me give you a practical example that shows why this matters. Let's talk about Reddit. Reddit is one of the strictest platforms when it comes to environment consistency. They have very clear expectations. If you're managing multiple communities, or doing research across different subreddits, or running legitimate moderation workflows, you need clean environment separation. Not because you're doing anything questionable, but because Reddit systems are designed to detect inconsistent behavior. If your browser signals don't align, location, time zone, device fingerprint, Reddit's platform interprets that as suspicious activity. Even if you're doing legitimate research, even if you're managing multiple projects, even if everything you're doing follows their terms of service, the platform doesn't know your intent. It only sees environmental inconsistency. And it responds by adding friction, logouts, verification requests, rate limits. This is where isolated browser environments become essential. I have one environment dedicated to Reddit research. It has a consistent location, aligned time zone, persistent login state, clean session history. When I open it, Reddit sees a returning user, not a suspicious signal. I have another environment for a different research context, completely separate, different identity, different persistent state. Reddit sees this as a different user entirely. Both environments work, both stay logged in, both remain stable over time. This isn't about bypassing anything. This is about working within platform expectations in a clean, organized way. And this same principle applies everywhere. Research platforms, AI tools with account limits, automation systems, client environments, testing workflows. Once you have stable environment separation, all of these systems stop breaking randomly. So if your AI workflows feel unstable, if Reddit research keeps resetting, if managing multiple projects feels harder than it should, the missing piece is probably your environment setup. The platform I use for this is called Go Login. It lets you create separate, stable browser environments for each workflow. Clean, consistent, and easy to manage. They have a free option to start with, so you can test it without any pressure. And here's something useful. Go Login gives every user 2 GB of free proxy traffic, which is more than enough to get started and see how it stabilizes your workflows. If you decide to keep using it, you can use my code ProfitHub40 to get a discount. This isn't a sales pitch. This is infrastructure. If your workflows are breaking randomly, this is probably why. I'll leave the link in the description below, along with the promo code. Try it. See if your workflow finally feels calm again.
Here's the shift I want you to make. Stop assuming your tools are the problem.
Stop rebuilding workflows that should already work. Start thinking about the environment layer. Because once that's stable, everything else stays working. This isn't about doing more. It's about building on stable ground. Once your environment stops changing, platforms stop pushing back. And everything you build with AI starts working the way it should. That's the layer most people never see. Now you do. If this helped, let me know in the comments. And if you try the setup, I'd love to hear how it changes your workflows. I'll see you in the next one.